Hi, everybody. 2,113 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, because he was a whistleblower. They forcibly removed him from his room to take him to the basement room that was soundproof so they could take his life. And that's what they did there. They took his life and then they stole his body off of Fort Bliss, a very secured, the largest American military base on our border, cameras everywhere. And we know that through the DES, Thomas Kane, that he was compromised. And Richard's body was allowed to be taken off of base and trafficked to Juarez. The evidence indicates that they harvested his organs. And so there's partial remains over in Juarez and lots of evidence, lots of statements. And of course, it's just absolutely horrifying that they did such a thing, because it included, of course, our military, our infiltrated military, double agents, traitors. It was treason. And I've said this for a long time, that it was treason, and I didn't say it because I wanted to say it. I didn't say it because I rushed to judgment. Anybody that has followed this case has known that our family has not rushed to judgment at all. We're 6 years in this, and we have absolutely worked alongside the military, our justice system, our Congress, when they, if they didn't tell us to go away. I'm saying that in a nice way. Yeah, we have absolutely not jumped to any kind of judgment, and we have, though, documented everything. We have investigated because we were told to investigate. The CID and Richard's command told us that they couldn't help us unless we brought them leads, that we had to investigate and bring them leads, and then they could help us. Can you believe that? That's what they told us, and we've reported that right from the very beginning. And so we investigated, and we documented everything. And that's why I come on every day. It's another form of us documenting and also informing the public what has happened at the border. And I call it the El Paso cartel. That's what our family calls it, the El Paso cartel. In alliance with the Mexican cartel. And how can that happen? Because we know the breaking news, and I'll mention that. We know that there are rogue and unauthorized operations in our military and in our law enforcement when it comes to the FBI and the CIA, which are both federal. Those are federal, and that is really important. But also with the DPS, the Department of Public Safety, which is absolutely the opposite of that. They need to be shut down. They are not about public safety. They have absolutely, and we're not rushing to judgment, we have a mountain of evidence that proves that they are not the Department of Public Safety, that they are absolutely infiltrated with the cartel. and they bring terror. They bring absolute terror, and they um, absolutely have been running unauthorized and rogue operations also on the Texas taxpayer dime. And so the FBI, the DPS, other agencies, of course, and the CIA now, we absolutely have corroborating evidence here and there and everywhere that confirms that they are up to no good, that they were up to no good in our son's case, that they are absolutely in alliance with the cartel and in alliance with the El Paso cartel. And we know that the El Paso cartel is in alliance with the terroristic organization known as the CJNG cartel, um, and also the Juarez cartel, and also the other terroristic organization called the Sinaloa cartel. And so, um, very clearly they're using taxpayers' money to run their criminal terroristic organization of trafficking and money laundering and really organizing operations that um, are like coups. I'm trying to define what they do because they're tampering with elections. They're buying off politicians, or buying off judges, or buying off lawyers. They're absolutely um, trying to establish their own country. That's what they're trying to do. And I think that's called a coup, right? Isn't that what that's called? A coup? And not only in the United States, but in Mexico too. I think they were even closer to taking over Mexico. Mexico absolutely has become a narco state until very, very recently. Something has happened. Something has happened in Mexico, and they are cleaning house. And it is amazing to see. And I'm going to play a video of this. And before I play it, I'm going to give you a little bit of background of what has happened recently. Recently, two CIA agents, along with two AEI agents, which are the Mexican Chihuahuan investigators from the Attorney General's office there in Chihuahua, were conducting an unauthorized um, operation in the Sierra, and they were ambushed. They were ambushed. They're suburban. From our reports, they drove Suburbans, and these were bulletproof bulletproof vehicles. They were reinforced vehicles. The gas tank was reinforced. These were like little armored vehicles, right? And they had fire extinguishers inside. They were very high tech. They had safety measures that would, in an accident, keep them from uh, totally burning up and dying. And yet, we were told that it was not an ambush, that these were not CIA agents. There was all kinds of lies coming out that they fell off a cliff and it just exploded and they were just in a fire and it just burnt all up, and all of that was not true. It was not true. What happened is an ambush. An ambush happened. Did it go off the cliff? Yes, but these this fire that burnt up this vehicle was not from an accident. This vehicle had reinforcement that would have prevented something like that. And it was so bad because the other CIA agents that were there, because there were more than just 2 CIA agents there, they tried with the other group to hide the CIA bodies. They wanted to get rid of the bodies, but it was just too bad. It was just too dangerous. And we have not said this was an ambush. Lately, at the beginning, we were saying, yes, this was an ambush, right? Uh, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, 100 years of military family experience and everything we can, but uh, we were right again. We were right again because the authorities now have come out and said their position was leaked and this was an ambush. Okay? This was an ambush. So this has been established now that this was an ambush and that these 2 CIA agents, John Black and Richard Johnston. John Black was a former Marine captain, John Black, and Richard Johnston, he was a drone operator. Okay, so he was a drone operator, and um, uh, and they both died, but they were on the payroll for Maru Campos, and you heard that right. They were double agents. They were not only on the payroll for the Chihuahuan governor, but they were given offices inside their secure building there in Chihuahua. Um, and it's been documented that they were carrying M4s. Okay, M4s, the military grade AR-15, but it's more powerful than an AR-15. Now, those are illegal in Mexico, totally illegal in Mexico. Okay. Also, that is what the U.S. military uses. So, did these M4s come from Fort Bliss? Because they're totally illegal to carry around, own in Mexico. Okay. Um, that, this is the background to this all. Now, we've also heard, and it needs to be confirmed, but I think that it is very important to know that the Mexican media is reporting that Maru Campos had a personal relationship with the CIA agents. Okay, that she went to party with them. Okay, she partied with them. She had a personal relationship. Now, that needs to come out of the official statements and the investigation. But why is that important to us? Because John Black, the surname Black, and the surname Johnston are the surnames that come from the Mormon colonies that settled there in Chihuahua, Mexico, over 100 years ago. Okay, way over 100 years ago. Let's just say 100 years ago. Like the Romneys. Romneys are very famous. There is some very famous names that you would recognize. That would be American. These are dual citizens. They through their polygamist Mormon beliefs, they went over to Mexico because polygamy is illegal in the United States. And so these were dual citizens, this colony. Now, these colonies, there's several of them, have been confirmed to have a Mormon faction that is in cahoots, in alliance with cartels and their activities. Okay. There are several cases out there, everything. It's also a very established knowledge that the Mormons will join the FBI and CIA. They are very well represented in our CIA and FBI, very, very well represented in a scary way, in a very scary way, because now we see through our son's case that there is a problem with dual citizen double agents, right? There is a real problem with dual citizen double agents, and especially in this area, okay? Um, in this area, because you see it with Alejandra de la Vega Foster, serving on both sides of the border. She's a double agent, working for the Texas governor's administration, very personal ways on his administration, and then also in Chihuahua. Working for Javier Corral, and then with Maru Campos on those administrations. And not only that, but sitting on committees that are with the CIA. These are the intelligence committees, um, uh, the Mexican version of it. But now we know that they uh, have employed CIA agents that are double agents, right? In Chihuahua, and that Alejandra de la Vega sat on those intelligence committees for border security. And we know what the border security has been. It's been garbage. It's been absolutely garbage. And so many people have gone missing. So many people have been trafficked, 500,000 children trafficked. And we have organ harvesting, and we have baby harvesting, and babies being sold at the black market, and we have loads of illicit drugs and weapons, ammunition, parts, car parts, all of that stuff, equipment, military equipment, even C4 with grenades, hand grenades, all of that is documented that that has been trafficked across the border, and including fuel theft, that it was huge. The fuel theft was huge, billions of barrels of fuel. And so it's no wonder that our prices are so high, because we have this kind of level of criminality that we have to address, that we have to address. And you see, if you understand the level of criminality going on at the border, then you, especially with the intelligence sharing, the obstruction of justice on both sides, the infiltration, the illicit or the rogue and unauthorized operations, that end up with 2 dead CIA agents. And also the unauthorized rogue operation. I'm using both words because and some people have said, no, this, you can't use rogue, you can't use unauthorized, whatever. No, these operations were intense, and some aspects of them were rogue, and some aspects of them were unauthorized. Okay. And all in all, they're treason. Okay. All in all, they're treasonous. And so this is why I say rogue and unauthorized and treasonous. Oh, absolutely. And so, so this is what our son's case. Uh, Parts of it was rogue, parts of it were unauthorized. It's um, and a lot of it is treason. A lot of it is treason, from the obstruction of justice, from the covering up of evidence, from the tampering with documents, tampering with video, tampering with just so much tampering, and the asymmetric warfare tactics were unauthorized, right? They were unauthorized. Um, and then when you come to the state, what the state did, and what the federal government did, who had jurisdiction, who did what, they're pretty complicated and intense, and it involves border trafficking and the funeral home fraud, death certificates, insurance payouts that are unauthorized or rogue or just fraud, absolute fraud, because this encompasses all of that, from the paperwork to the actual crime. So it's like white collar crime to the very violent cartel crime, and they lead to this El Paso cartel, right? The El Paso cartel that wanted to, I guess, establish their own country there at the border, right? They wanted a coup. I think they were very close to uh, um, a coup of Mexico. I think they wanted Mexico, right? Complete control of Mexico. And of course, they wanted the United States too, with Beto O'Rourke. Absolutely, there's so much evidence against him, and um, Kamala Harris, and Veronica Escobar, and Biden, and yeah, Obama, and Oprah, and there's just all kinds of evidence that leads to this group and targeting President Trump. And that's why they had to target Richard, because Richard hindered their targeting of President Trump, and they just wanted to undo him so that he would not be reelected. It's very clear with the Walmart mass shooting, which was a rogue and unauthorized, orchestrated, bloody hell mass shooting. Okay. Um, and the narrative that they've given us is not true. It's full of holes. And one day we're going to find out what really happened and where all of these people, what really happened, because 23 died, 22 injured. Um, we're going to find out the true story, because the truth is coming out, right? And the fear is starting to be lifted. Not too long ago, just if you said the word cartel, that brought, a lot of fear into people. And that's starting to lift now. People are absolutely seeing the cartel as the thugs that they are. They're just thugs. And are they violent? Yes, of course they are. But they're also El Paso cartel. They're also labeling themselves as philanthropists when they're at totally cartel activities, right? Um, and all this money laundering and all the fuel theft and all just, the organ harvesting, and in the medical system. And it's just, uh, sometimes it's like, wow. Um, uh, the level of evil, and that's what I'm talking about here, the level of evil. And Richard said no. He brought down the columns. He brought down the columns on this criminal enterprise, this cartel criminal enterprise at the border. And he just said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to put up with this. He really is a major, major hero. And the evidence shows him to be, even President Trump, with two letters, not one, with two letters, absolutely qualifies him to be in that garden, right? This garden of heroes. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. because the evidence is just so overwhelming. I rather have Richard alive. I rather have Richard alive, but uh, this is the level of courage and valor, and in the line of duty, the duty that Richard um, really stuck to his oath. He really stuck to his oath, and fought for this country. And when he did that, he fought for Mexico too, because this is the same group that wants to hurt our military, our country, that wants to hurt the Mexican military and country. Okay, there's no doubt in my mind. They wanted it to be a huge narco state, and they wanted to control it. Um, so uh, we have this, this breaking news that the CIA agents were on the payroll of Chihuahua, and that's huge. They had an office in her intelligence building. Um, they were carrying M4s, and so now let's watch this. What Mexican media, and this is dubbed into English, so it kind of sounds a little funny, but it is amazing. It's amazing, and I'm so grateful to have the English dubbing. So let's listen to it. This is uh, El Nopal Times. Let me put this on. And I just want to let you listen to just the end of this. You can always go to it on your own.
Or what other governor is doing it? It's important to ask ourselves this question. After the prosecution called 50 officials from Chihuahua to testify due to the
50.
irregularities in the entry of U.S. agents, the agents went to the facilities on Thursday, May 7th. So part of what we hear in these interviews is leaked information from these statements that are being made. But sooner or later, all Mexicans will have to know publicly what happened. And if it's true that the governor went directly to these agents and she knew and didn't warn them and didn't do anything, but this woman should go to prison immediately for treason. And we Mexicans are not going to expect anything less. We don't need to say she's already been scolded. Nothing occurred. No. Get tough with these types of abusive authorities, and we have to set a limit because it's not fair. And it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. We even saw, friends, findings inside this laboratory located in Morelos, Chihuahua, where they supposedly found 55,000 liters of liquid substances, 50 tons of suspected precursors to illicit substances, 2,500 liters.
So that's really what I wanted you to hear, that it's not just me. This is also the Mexican media saying, look, Maru Campos, what she did, parting with these CIA agents, the office in the building there in Chihuahua, that tells you that this has been ongoing. This is established. This is established. We're going to use Mexican taxpayer, Chihuahuan taxpayers' money. It's almost like embezzlement, right? We're going to use Chihuahuan taxpayer money, and we're going to pay these CIA agents. Like, what? What? Like her people there in Chihuahua, I think that I think they need more help than these CIA agents that cause all these trouble. And what is she planning with these CIA agents? What is she planning with them? And what are they planning with her? And do they come from the colonies there and have more interest in Nova Casa Grandes, which, let me put that up, because this is important for people to understand that they might have a motive to control that area for their own own aggrandizement, that they might have another loyalty besides the oath that they swore when they became CIA agents, that these are double agents, and that the becoming a CIA agent was just a means to enforce, to intelligence databases, to infiltrate the United States and use and abuse them, to be the agents that turn the other head when they see all this trafficking going on into the United States, or even participating and organizing the trafficking, because nothing was taken from this laboratory. They weren't there to do a raid. That has been already confirmed and reported that they weren't there. It was like a photo op training. Let me get my drone out and then they get, maybe they meet up with an opposition cartel that doesn't take lightly to what they're doing. Was it the Maisas? Was it, I don't know if it was CJNG. The El Paso cartel has made it an alliance with the CJNG, with this group. So, yeah, I don't know. So I'm just talking out loud because these CIA agents have a different loyalty than to the United States, and Maru Campos has a different loyalty than to Mexico. What they did was treason, absolutely treason. And there's no doubt in my mind, and I've been saying that just like the generals. I said what they did was treason. And we absolutely need to call it what it is, and they need to be held to the highest penalty for that. Because look at the lives that they have destroyed. In every which way, from the economy to the crime. So here is Google Earth, and here you see uh, Juarez there and Fort Bliss, El Paso. You can see Fort Bliss right there, El Paso. Um, White Sands Missile Range, of course, if you go right up White Sands Missile Range, you're going to be into New Mexico, and this is where Zorro Ranch was right here. This is all restricted air. So this right here, up to this road here, is all restricted airspace, and here right here was Zorro Ranch, and right above that was Beto Works. So that's why this is so important to understand the map. I've watched this map I don't know how many times. I was born right here. This is right here in this spot right here. This is where I was born. So I'm familiar with this area. Here's Fort Bliss. Here's Ciudad Juarez. And then here is Nova Casa Grandes, okay? Nova Casa Grandes with Colonial Juarez, this area here, is the colonies, right? The colonies, a big Mormon faction area that settled in there. Here is um, Colonial Labaron, um, big Mormon faction area. And yeah, so this is, if you have this situation here, your loyalty might be from here. I mean, this is, look, you can see they're very established. If I put the little man down right here, let's see, like right here, if I put the man down right here, um, you'll see that they have built their temple, right? They've built their temple, right? And down here, um, is their boarding school. They have a boarding school, very, very posh. It's very posh. Boarding school. And so I'm just saying they uh, might have a different loyalty. And the other thing that um, uh, this makes the point. Let me turn this off so I can get out of here. I don't want this. Let's see. Let's see if I can get out of here now. Oh yeah, there you go. Let's see, let me turn it on again. Is what they'll do is they'll put, and I just saw it. Oh, I need to be more prepared. This is their academy. This is their academy. Okay. And I won't go down to it, but they're very established there. That's the whole point. And of course, in Nove Casa Grandes, because they have the airport there, and they can fly very easily from Nove Casa Grandes into Santa Teresa Jetport, which is the jetport right here that they flew El Mayo into. Okay, they flew El Mayo into that. And why do I say they? Because Colin Wetton is the FBI field office there with Jared Brown, with Michael Mayella. That is a compromise by a Mormon faction FBI field office. Okay, there's no doubt in my mind. Colin Wetton leaked whistleblowers' identity, including our sons. He is directly responsible for the death of our son because of that. There's no doubt in my mind that there is and he is very connected to Nove Casa Grandes. And so they're up to no good. And that group controls that Santa Teresa jetport. Okay. And that's where Dallas Hart was also learning how to fly. So he is absolutely with that group. And we know that that's with that he is with that group. And of course, here's Sinaloa. So, from Sinaloa, from this, I want to make sure that I'm at the right. Oh no, okay, so it's a little bit further south, right here. This Culiacan. Right here is his ranch, the ranch that he was kidnapped at. And so if I come out, and that is where they flew him. Okay, they flew him from there to there to the Santa Teresa International Jetport. So I think that is, I think that's helpful. I like maps. I think it's very helpful for our family to see what's going on. I did maps from the very beginning of all of this. And because I noticed that there were all of these children's shelters along the border and orphanages along the border. And I thought that that was very, very strange. Very strange. Why along the border? Why not in the middle of like big cities? Why not in Chihuahua itself? Why not in Mexico City itself? Why are you going to have dotted along the border children's shelters? And why would you want to keep them there? It's so dangerous when you have an open border to keep orphanages and children's shelters there. Just didn't make sense at all to me. And especially since the United States had all of these shelters on the other side where 500,000 children were trafficked. Yeah, it was very clear at the beginning that there was something very wrong going on, and the shaking of everybody, including Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz. He shook so bad, I called him Shaky Jake. And and I knew because of that, and all of the responses and the discussions that we had with him and everything, that Richard was very important. He was so important. He made everybody shake. He made everybody shake. So I knew that they were lying about him. I knew that he was a whistleblower, and so we just needed to get the evidence. So we needed to document, and we needed to file everything. And of course, that has been answered now through without the return of his remains. The evidence is so strong, so mountainous, that he does have the designation of in the line of duty, which confirms that he was killed on Fort Bliss as a retaliation for his whistleblowing. So, uh, it's just there's no question about it. Um, no guessing about it anymore. It's there and it's established, and the evidence is overwhelming. So now we are in the vicious negotiations for the repatriation of his remains. That's where we're at now, and it's pretty vicious. And you see that it takes um, something like this, something like the death of two CIA agents, to bring attention to to what we've been saying all along, that these are rogue and unauthorized operations, that a group in El Paso, the El Paso cartel, in alliance with the Mexican cartels, and you can see how that can happen when you have this mix of law enforcement intelligence agencies and their interest in the land there in Chihuahua, generational land there, and also using the resources that come from the United States. And also, look, they were on the Chihuahuan payroll, right? They're using the resources from the Mexican people too. So, these are double agents. These are double agents. These are the worst type of people, right? And you see that with Alejandra de la Vega Foster. She's a double agent and also she's an operative for the El Paso cartel. And, they don't come like thugs. They don't look like they are thugs. They're monsters. But they're very deceptive, and they give all the perception of being benevolent and good and being a philanthropist. They want you to believe that they're a philanthropist, that they give away their money, but they don't. They manipulate. They manipulate to money launder and embezzle and tax people and terrorize both the United States and Mexico. And the evidence, not me, that's not my opinion, that is evidence, confirms that that is what they do. And now you have it that Cesar Duarte is in prison. You have his wife there hiding out in El Paso, I think. No, she got arrested, right? She got arrested in El Paso. But then you have the Arellano Carrons hiding out in El Paso. You have one of them is a fugitive, an outright official fugitive. Then you have Cesar Haragi. He is hiding out in El Paso. Why do they hide out in El Paso? These are people that have loads of money. They have spent years and years and years filling up their bank accounts. Um, they could go anywhere in the world, but they choose to go to El Paso. Why do they go to El Paso? because of the El Paso cartel, because the El Paso cartel is in the justice system there, because the El Paso cartel is the medical examiner, is in the district attorney's office, is in the AUSA. Remember, it was Jaime Esparza over and over again. I mean, he is such the El Paso cartel member, right? Jaime Esparza. I could go on and on about the evidence about Jaime Esparza being the prosecutor for El Mayo, bringing in, uh, well, this was an extra. Why didn't he say, wait a minute, there's no extradition orders for him? He botched the whole case for El Mayo is botched. The conflicts of interests are huge. And Jaime Esparza was, of course, the Walmart prosecutor whose sister was at the Walmart, and they still allowed him to be the prosecutor. He didn't even recuse himself. So um, it's the same little group protecting the likes of Cesar Hargis, Cesar Paneche, the Purchase Arellano, Quran family, the Nadal Babe, the Lalani Hart. Why isn't Lalani Hart arrested? She absolutely should be arrested. There's no questions about it. Everything is there that makes her a criminal and that she should be arrested. So, when you have the FBI and the EPIC, the El Paso intelligence community right there, when you have the media right there, like El Paso Community Foundation controlling the media, El Paso Matters and the rest of the whole thing, and KTSM, David Candelaria, so quid pro quo, y'all, so quid pro quo, part of this whole mess, right? Part of uh, the whole mess with the Diaz's, the DA's office. I mean, he is in deep up to, over his head, over his head. So, and that's why KTSM, we were brought to KTSM. Um, yeah, and then, of course, the universities there, absolutely compromised. So that's why they go to El Paso, because they feel the most protected with the layers of the onion that they have built up there in El Paso. And that's where they're going. I'm wondering if Maru Campos is going to go to El Paso, because with their agreements that they made, they got the visas, they got the bank accounts, they got the cars, the houses, the properties, the businesses, they got the licenses. That was part of their quid pro quo with the United States, with sharing the intelligence data and surveillance data, um, and of course, all of the trafficking. So it's very clear that they were trying to build their own little country there, that they were not abiding by the United States or by Mexico. And so Mexico has come out really hard, rightfully so, to assert their country's sovereignty. Thank God. Thank God. And saying that what Maru Campos did was treason against Mexico. Thank God. And they're first. They're before the United States. So we'll see what happens in the United States. They really have blacked out Richard and the border, therefore the border, because anything with the border would bring up Richard. They have blacked that out. I mean, they just barely even cover anything like that. So it's going to be now that the CIA agents were on the payroll in Chihuahua. We'll see if they cover it. I don't know. I don't know if President Trump will address it, if Marco Rubio will address it, because this has a lot to do with the embassy and everything. the embassy grounds, the consulate grounds. Um, we'll see if they address it, if they're ready. Right now they have the Iran, uh, whatever that is, the Strait of Hormuz, that is absolutely connected to this whole pipeline. Okay, this whole pipeline, and we know that through Nadal Baim that he wanted to go to Kuwait. He wanted to flee to Kuwait with $44,000 of stolen money. And here he is, the father-in-law of Richard's uh, G3, G3 lieutenant colonel in the G3, Bradford Bugado. And that family being absolutely connected to the cartel and to the El Paso cartel network, okay, and to the Strait of Hormuz, okay. They're part of that whole pipeline, and um, yeah, so we'll see if the time is right for the United States and the media to cover this story. But right now, I'm very glad that Mexico is that they still haven't mentioned Richard's name, and Richard's name should be all over this because it's not only the CIA agents; it's Richard's remains. It's what they did to Richard, and Chihuahua interfering in Richard's case absolutely from the beginning. And we've documented all of that, that they interfered with Richard's case. So let's see if there's any questions here. Thank you for translating all of this to Spanish. Thank you so much. It's so important. James, thank you for coming. Hello to you too. Thank you, Anorak Rivers. Thank you so much for coming on. And thank you so much. Extra thanks to Laura Rodriguez for all of her translating. And of course, there's all the Arctic frost information coming out that proves that there were rogue and unauthorized operations, treasonous operations coming out of the FBI against President Trump. That's coming out. And the election fraud. This is all about election. Like I said, they're like planning a coup. Like, they wanted to take over the United States, but they really wanted Mexico. They wanted Mexico because they could control all that fuel, right? The whole pipeline of fuel, the Pemex, um, and of course, all the other trafficking. So yeah, it is. It's treason, and I should say, the investigators, the federal investigators in Mexico are investigating for a reason now, and that reason is treason. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great Sunday. The psalm for today, and we're not even burning midnight oil yet. It's still May 16th, 2026. And the psalm for today, if you do your daily psalm reading, I do it out of um, of course, the Book of Common Prayer. We're Anglican. Uh, and it was just powerful, y'all. Psalm 49. If you have time to read Psalm 49, really powerful, very energetic, and it tells you that we're on the right side, that we have to be girded, that we have to fight for justice, and we cannot be weak on crime. We cannot be weak on crime. No. Too many people get hurt. And of course, in our case, our son, it was brutal. And for doing the right thing, you know? So if you can absolutely share everything, that's the only thing that we ask. We don't monetize, but we do ask that you share our information because we are being shadow banned. And then tonight I'll have an extra little favor to ask for Richard. The post about Richard being added to the 250 year memorial garden. Give that a thumbs up if you don't mind. Give that a thumbs up, give it a share, um, because he deserves it. He deserves it. So, thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.